This video documents a screen change for an Acer Aspire One D257 netbook. First thing you do is take the screw covers off. There are two screws at the bottom left and right of the screen, and they are covered by some little plastic tabs that look about the thickness of electrical tape. You can see the two black dots on the white to the left of the machine there. Then take those two screws out, which hold the bezel in place. You have to pop the bezel off. In this case was a little tough because I think the smaller computers are held together a little better with the tabs that hold the bezel in place, or there's just not as much leeway to pop them off. The key is to just work back and forth with them, popping them one at a time, and not put too much pressure on it as to break the bezel. Keep working with it and going back and forth, and as you can see, it will eventually give it up and you can take the bezel off. There are 4 screws that hold the actual LCD in, one in each corner. Remove those 4 screws and you can lay the screen back, but not before you disconnect the camera cable. There is a camera cable at the very top that goes into the circuit board that the camera cable plugs in. Disconnect that, then you can lay the screen back on the keyboard. Cable running vertically up the back of the LCD is the camera cable. It's held in place by a slight bit of adhesive. Not much, it's real easy to get off. And the video cable is about center way left and right of the screen. And it is held in place by some pretty sticky tape. You do need to compare the new screen to make sure that the connector is in the same location as the original one, and that it is the same connector and the screen is the same size, basically the same screen that is the original screen. So take the cable loose, just lifting up on it because it's just in place by some adhesive. Remove the tape that holds the video connector in place, and then you can disconnect the video connector itself. The cable itself near the video connector is held to the back of the screen by some more adhesive, but it's not bad to get off either. You just kind of just pull up on it, pull the cable off. Once you've done that, the screen is free to be moved out of the way. And the new screen goes in basically the same way the old screen came out. First thing to do is set it in place and connect the video connector to the middle of the screen. It slides right in. It should be fairly obvious as to how it fits, and make sure you push the tape back down in place so it will stay there. Push the cable back down and the adhesive is still good. It will still hold it in place. We're putting the camera cable back in place. The next thing is to be sure and plug your camera connection up at the top, and don't forget to do that or your camera won't work. Set the screen in place. There are some tabs, some locator tabs that the screen will sit down into so that you know that it is in the proper place. And once that is done, you can go ahead and put the 4 screws that hold the LCD back in place. And once that is done, it's time to snap the bezel back on. But not before you remove the protective plastic sheeting that's on top of the LCD. Oh, and by the way, close the lid to make sure none of the cables are in a bind and that the lid closes and opens properly without any of the cables, getting in a bind, and that it feels correct when it does, when you open and close it. And now it's time to put the bezel on, but as I said before, let's not forget to take the plastic screen protector covering off, because once you put the bezel back on, If you forgot to do that, you'll have to take the bezel back off to do it. As you can see, it comes off nice, smooth, and easy. Basically, you put the bezel back in place and snap it back in place. It's a lot easier to snap in place than it was to unsnap, because you may think that you're going to put too much pressure on it unsnapping it and break the plastic. You don't really want to do that. I mean, it's easy to get the bezel off without doing that, but it just takes a little, working back and forth to get the bezel off. Snapping it back into place is a lot easier. So we put the 2 screws back into the bezel cover, or the bezel. Now it's time to test the screen. I know that this one will work because this one was cracked. It wasn't a dark screen. So if the screen is good, this one should come on. Just a matter of plugging it up. I think the battery was down on this particular unit. Turning it on and watching it say Acer when the screen comes up. There it is. And folks, it's that easy to change the screen on one of the little Acer netbooks. This is a model D257. Thanks for watching, and I hope the video has been somewhat of a help.